Welcome to Handcrafting Your Retirement with Brett Ramsey from Artisan Wealth Strategies. In this podcast, we help retirees as well as those who are considering retirement overcome generic wealth management advice that limits your future. We do this by handcrafting customized financial strategies centered on your unique lifestyle. Jump on board for this journey where we delve into strategies that can help make your money outlast you, as Brett draws from years of experience with guest experts to eliminate cookie-cutter saving strategies.
Hello, and welcome to Handcrafting Your Retirement with your host, Brett Ramsey, where we talk about what you want in retirement and how to make it happen. I'm Wendy McConnell. Now, Brett, you're going to start off with one of your great stories, right?
I'm going to do my best. I don't know if it's a great story, but it's my story.
Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
You know, recently, and for those of you that it's a podcast, so you can't see me, but if you were to look at my profile picture now, you're going to notice that I have on a pair of glasses. And why did I need glasses? So probably not dissimilar from all of you. You got to go get a checkup. So I used to take great pride in the fact that when I was a child, I could literally read the manufacturer off the bottom of the chart. Never needed glasses, never had an issue. And the school that I went to in rural North Carolina, we used to go into this office and have that eye test done every year, right? And so the same thing happens. And one day I'm realizing that, like, man, things are starting to get a little fuzzy when I try to read them. So I happen to belong to one of those big box stores, Costco, and I'm walking through there one day and I find that I can get my eyes checked for like $50. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go get my eyes checked. And the lady comes back and she's like, hey, your vision's still great. And I said, well, why is that when I wake up in the morning? Well, it's pretty normal at your age that your eyes takes a little, the muscles are tired. So at the end of the day, things might start to get a little blurry. When you wake up in the morning, they might be a little bit blurry. But right now, you don't need any corrective lenses. Your vision is still, actually, it was 2015, and that was 3 years ago. But then I started getting this reminder now to go in and check my vision. And I'm on a trip, and it was about 8-9 months ago now, and I'd taken a book with me. And I got my book out to read it in the airport. We were waiting for a connecting flight. And I looked at my wife and I said, when did they start printing these books with invisible ink? I could not read the book any longer. And so just over the course of like 3 years, I went from, hey, no issue, to the next year, hey, you might want to try some reading glasses, to this year, we needed to go to basically like a bifocal transition lens. That just happened over like 3 years. And but the reason why I got these glasses now is, one, I need them, but two is there's a metric, there's a measurement, there's a process by which I know how to do it. And so today, since we're going to be talking about health, I thought that's something that maybe a lot of people have gone through in their life, right? Where they're used to getting their vision measured, and there's a process and a baseline. And really what we're going to talk about today is, how do we start to do that with all of our health so that we can really start to understand, hey, when do I need to take action? When do I need correction? When are things fine? When are things not fine? And really, my own vision here is really, I think, one of the telltale things that has helped me realize that, like, man, I got to be doing that in other parts of my life as well, so that it's not, sneaking up on me, and that I'm not unexpected when I need to make some changes to how I'm taking care of myself. So that's kind of my starting story today, Wendy, about my health. And today's going to be a different episode. I'll warn everybody, it's just me today. I have no guest because talking about your changes as you age is not something I found a lot of people are super excited about doing, Wendy. I don't know why.
See, I want to make sure that I'm as strong and as healthy as possible to make the later years as easy as they can be.
That's actually one of my profound goals in life. I may have told this before, but I have a gentleman that I admire from afar. He's not a close personal friend of mine, but he's in his 80s now, and I'm about 6'4". And so, that's a pretty tall fella. And there aren't just a lot of older, tall men that I get to kind of look towards and see what's it look like to be a healthy, older, tall fellow. And so when I find one that's in their 80s that's doing things and active the way I'd like to be, I really pay attention. And so I've really been watching this man and kind of how he goes about things and how he can stay so active, and started talking to him about, you know, what do you do? What do you eat? What are the things that you notice certain patterns for the people that I've been kind of studying. And there is a consistency to it. And the people that are active, it's because they are active. And I know that sounds like crazy, but like you don't just magically get active in your 80s, right? Like you have to kind of be there. And so that's what I mean by, same way with my vision, you got to kind of establish a baseline of how active am I? What does it take to be active? And we can measure these things. And so last year, actually, as a part of my journey, I actually went and did an assessment. I like to play golf, and I was having a lot of pain when I played golf. And so it was making me not want to play golf. And so I went to an expert, and they actually measured me. I think it was like 18 different movements that they measured me on. And they could see how far could I turn? How easy was it for me to bend at my knees? How easy was it for me to bend at my ankles, my waist, my shoulders, all these different things. And they gave me a score. And that score wasn't that impressive. But what I loved about that, though, was then it gave me something as a benchmark to be able to come back to consistently, because I can tell you that Rod in his 80s, not probably, I've witnessed it. He still moves well. He still turns well. He can, hit a golf ball, maybe not quite as far as I can, but he is 30 years older than I am, and he still hits that ball and hits it, right? It isn't like, and he still plays with energy and passion, and, he gets around, not just like putters around, like he's out there attacking life, and I'm like, man, that's what I want to look like. And so what are the changes that I can make now that are maybe small changes that will allow me to look like that? So like I said, first thing I think is you got to kind of, one, have a bit of a goal. Like, what do you want it to look like? Right. Two, what I've been working on is establishing that baseline for myself. Like, what are the things that I'm maybe not able to do today that I need to be able to do? And can I change that? And then the other part of it is just like, being a little bit more gracious and patient with myself about the process. I think one of the examples that I did last year is that I just kept getting injured. I mean, I was working out hard. I liked the workouts. I enjoyed the workouts, but I just kept getting injured. And so every time I would get kind of back to where I was healthy, boom, I have another injury. And so I sat down with a doctor that I really respected, and I said, hey, a little bit like I've seen the enemy, and the enemy is me. Um, I went in and said, hey, doc, I like you, but you're becoming like my best friend because I'm in here like every 3 months with a different injury. Why?
Yeah.
And I was like, what's going on? And don't just tell me it's because I'm getting older. There's something about how I'm trying to be healthy that is having the opposite effect of what I want. And he said something kind of like simple, but a little bit like, to me, it was profound. It hit me in a way that I hadn't heard him before. And he goes, well, Brett, he goes, you're not a college athlete anymore. He said, but my bet is that when you work out, you try to still work out like you're a 22-year-old college athlete. And you're, at that time I was 52.
Mm.
And I was like, I think you're kind of right.
Yeah.
And we started talking about it because at the gym that I was a member of, there was workout classes that I attended like 4 days a week. And once again, I enjoyed them. And I was still trying to win. And what I mean by win is like there's a 20-something-year-old recently graduated from college basketball player in my class. And one day there was a rowing challenge and he beat me. And I took that so personally that I went over and I literally lifted the rower off the ground the next time trying to beat this kid.
Oh my
Right.
gosh.
And I'm probably 25 to 30 years older than he is. And because my mindset is that I'm still that athlete. I'm still that person that can compete, can win, can do those things. And so what the doctor really helped me with is not only just trying to establish the right baseline for how is my body performing, but what I really had to start doing was rethink, how does my mind think about this? Like, what is my goal? And that was, to be honest, that's been the hardest part for me, is to think about my body and my health, not as trying to win a race, or perform in a decathlon or go play a football game, because that's how I learned to work out. Right. And that's why I liked it. Right. But I remember another was actually my golf instructor, and he was like, "Why are you running a marathon?" And I was like, he goes, "You must really like running." And I was like, "No, I like winning." I actually hated running, but I found running to be very effective at meeting my goal of weight loss or a cardiovascular. So what I'm really trying to do now is actually marry up things that I do enjoy with my movement goals. And so, one of the things that I'm going to be doing here in the new year is I'm going to be taking dance classes.
Oh, I
Yeah.
like it.
Right, because I know I want to be active and I know that I want to be able to move, and I love dancing with my wife. And so, and when we go to, like, this summer, one of our friends had a wedding reception and we got to go to the wedding reception, and it was really a lot of fun just to be out there dancing with my wife. And um it was just like, yeah, like I want to be able to dance when I'm 80. Right. And so I don't want to just look like a fool out there. I want to be good at it. So I
Mhm.
want to move well. And that, so that's an example of where I'm marrying two of my ideas together, right? It's like movement and being active consistently, but then finding something that isn't running, right?
Exactly.
Because I don't like running, right? Um, so that's an example of something that I'm trying to figure out. Um, I really do like walking, and I like hiking, and I like seeing things. So that's something we're trying to incorporate more of, is like, once again, finding activities that I enjoy to do that also marry this idea of working towards a goal from a health standpoint. So I get tired of walking around the neighborhood on the same loop all the time. So, that's something I'm trying to not do, just walk to walk, but then try to find out, like, oh, hey, where could I go and where could I explore? Where could I go? And, I haven't been to this part of town, right? So I may ride my bike to there and then walk around there and check it out. But it doesn't have to be like a fast walk. It doesn't have to be like this purposeful walk. Like on a trip to Boston last year, my wife and I followed the Freedom Trail around Boston,
Mm.
and we're
Yeah.
walking around, and we ended up spending just the most amazing evening walking through all these historical sites and reading the plaques and in the history, but also we ran across all of these interesting little shops and found all kinds of different things that we never would have experienced if we hadn't have just been out and walking and been, you know exploring, with no particular time limit or place to go. And that's something I just don't hear enough of. We always seem to be so, like, caught up and busy in our activities that we don't just slow down and just go somewhere cool.
Yeah. We're always in a rush.
Yeah. I mean, like, I did that with my son in your lovely city there in Philadelphia. You know, I hope everybody's seen Rocky. If you haven't seen Rocky, you're missing out. Rocky's a great
Good
movie.
one.
It's a good movie, but obviously just walking up the famous steps and everything and following that. But we spent hours walking around downtown Philadelphia, just exploring and looking at the different art and the architecture. He hates it sometimes when I do this because he was trying to figure out which college to go to. So we would just go to a college and I would park the car near the bookstore. And he'd be like, "What are we doing?" I'm like, "We're going to go check out this college." And he's like, "How are we going to do that?" And I'm like, "We're going to walk from the bookstore to the football stadium. And then we're going to walk to the quad." And he's like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Because this is how you're going to learn about this town or about this campus." And
Right.
so those are just the things that I'm trying to do, because like I said, I woke up last year and I hurt all the time. And doing the things that I wanted to do didn't feel great. And I lost some weight. I did all the metrics that seemed to make sense, but my body still wasn't feeling great. And I wasn't enjoying my body. I wasn't able to do the things that I wanted. So actually, I still haven't hit the goal, but I think I will be able to this year. So last year in January, when I started this goal, or this year in January, I should say, when I started this goal of thinking different about my health after meeting with a doctor who said, "Hey, you got to quit working at it like you're trying to play college football." Said, "What are you trying to do?" And I said, "I'm trying to be 80-year-old Rod who can still walk the golf course and smack the golf ball." And he goes, "Okay, that's a good goal. What's that look like?"
Mm.
So I did this physical assessment to kind of figure out, hey, how do I move? What are my limitations? And I started doing that. And in that process, I discovered that one of my limitations was I had a problem with my elbow. And I couldn't figure out why. So I tried resting. We tried all these different things. And my goal was to play golf 3 days in a row. I wanted to be able to walk the golf course each day. And I did not want to have to take any painkillers or subsidize the painkillers with some liquid courage to numb the pain to make it through the 3 days.
Okay.
I was not able to do that last year,
Oh,
right? Because this elbow pain got so severe that I just couldn't hit a golf ball anymore without it hurting.
and that was your form of measurement, was to see.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like if I can't do this pain free, why?
All right.
Right? And is it something I can change? And because if it's something I can change, then I want to change it because I enjoy playing golf. I enjoy walking. I enjoy doing that activity. And before I couldn't walk. So the whole year before I was having all this foot and ankle and hip pain and did all the physical therapy for that just in time to find out that my elbow was a problem. It's just literally 18 months of being in physical therapy for various injuries. And the whole point to that is like, okay, so now, like, I think a lot of people are that way. But instead of like attacking the root cause and trying to figure out why it's not working the way that it should, they just give up or they medicate it away.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be a doctor here, but like, I just don't give up on stuff. Like if you really love it, right? Like I love walking and I couldn't walk. So I worked really hard on getting back to where I could walk without pain. And I did that and it's great because now I can go on those hikes. I can do those things. Then I just couldn't hit the golf ball. Right. And then I was like, okay, why? And so now elbows feeling much better. Took 3 months of intense physical therapy where there was a lot of things in there that hurt, right? Like to go and do dry needling and have people do cupping and to do all the different stretching and the things that have to happen to make that arm move the way it was supposed to move again without being tight and without all the pain. It sucks some days, right? And you're like, okay, but my alternative is to give up something that I love or figure out why I'm hurting when I do it. And I just watch too many guys just kind of what I call medicate their way through it. And They kind of grit it out, and then they're not out there in their 80s anymore playing because it hurts too bad to play because they never figured out how to get their body to work the way it needed to work. And so
Right.
that kind of was my big aha for this year was don't just keep doing it the same way, thinking it's going to get better. Like you got to change how you think. So once I established that baseline, once I started changing the way I think, now once again, it's late in the year. 2025 will be a new year, and we still got the 3 days in a row goal. Hopefully by February, I'll be able to tell you if I've made it or not. And I'll go someplace warm because it's not going to be warm here anymore. But that's it. And to try to keep it super simple and to not make it like all my goals used to be just kind of too big. Run a half marathon, run a marathon. Why? Well, I don't know what else to do. Right. So now it's walk 18 holes of golf 3 days in a row without pain.
Well, and you do get older. Your priorities shift and change, and you need to figure out what it is that you most want to focus on. I'm a big fan of pickleball. I want to be playing that when I'm 80 as well. So I try to keep up with strength training and that kind of stuff to keep my bones and my muscles strong. And you know, I don't really have a barometer. I'm just doing it.
Well, and I think that's a great one for our audience because actually, pickleball is I would think a perfect example of some of everything that's right and everything that's wrong right now with people as they're aging. Right. Actually, in all of my physical therapy people, the biggest boom to their business is pickleball injuries.
Yes, it is. Yes.
And a little bit of it is that on the surface, it seems like it's not as physically demanding as certain other activities, which is true. And I think that's why it's attractive because it's not as much maybe running or things as tennis and some other types of things. And it's fun. It's pretty fast paced, right? You're playing with a group typically, some people play as individuals, but mostly people play as teams. And that's something we want to help our clients be able to do is not just to have that activity, but to enjoy it. And that's where I said, like, being able to think through that, like, as crazy as it sounds, that elbow injury was the reason why I wasn't able to play pickleball with my wife.
Okay.
I couldn't, it was the same extension of the arm. Every time I did it, it was like someone was stabbing me with a little knife.
Oh.
And I couldn't figure out how to play left-handed. So uh, I quit playing, right? Because the first year I didn't play because I couldn't move. That was the same problem with the hip, ankle, knee issue. So I couldn't go side to side without pain. So my wife would be like, come on, you're great at this. Come play with me. And I'd be like, yeah, I'll play well today. And then tomorrow I won't be able to walk. And
Right.
then 3 days later, I feel good. Like that's just not a way to go through this thing, right?
Hmm.
It's like let's figure this out, and you can. And not everybody I'm trying to say is just with some physical therapy is going to be able to resolve the issue. Because once again, I don't want to make things sound too easy, but sometimes we just got to get with the right professionals, understand what our limits are, and then work within those limits to enjoy what we are capable of. And so that's really what I try to encourage my clients to find something like you just said, pickleball, whatever it might be that you're going to enjoy, but also just don't jump into it head first without understanding, is my body capable of doing this? Right.
Right.
And I think a big part of that is starting to learn how to like feed our body right. And, so nutrition has become a big thing for me that I've learned a lot about in the last year and a half, because some of my injuries were due to inflammation, right? So basically, tendonitis is the tendon is stretched and then it becomes inflamed. And then when it becomes inflamed, it hurts, right? So, how do we deal with inflammation? Well, that's, some people take medication for that, but a lot of the food that we eat will either help or hurt, right? How our body is handling that. So learning that like feeding your body a certain way, if you have a certain type of injury or a certain type of condition, you may need to eat some different things, right? Because the food is going to help your body heal or perform better in that area. And it's not just always your weight. right? It's sometimes weight is somewhat important on joints and other things, but it's also that ability to, to process and be healthier. So that's where I'm trying to learn of like, so I actually have done a blood study to try to make sure I understand, like, am I deficient in certain minerals and things like that? Do I need to change what's in my diet to have a better chance of being healthy? And I think sometimes we just we don't do enough of that kind of easy stuff, right? Of like, and it's not always like the people, and I'm not trying to pick on people that have high blood pressure or something like that. And today with all of the different, I was just at a dinner party this week, and a couple of them were physicians, and one guy has lost, another gentleman that I knew had lost 25 pounds. Everybody was commenting on it, and they were talking about it, and they just call it the jab now. So the doctors are like, you're using the jab. And I'm like, it took me a while to understand their lingo, but basically those are the people that are using, Ozempic or Mounjaro or one of those types of GLP inhibitor type drugs or medications. And they were talking about that. And once again, the physicians, and I'm not trying to even say that, they were just talking about that there's still certain things they don't know about how that's going, right? For some people, there's certainly some weight loss there, but they've also said that, oh, well, but they also had a lot of muscle mass loss. And so once again, make sure you understand like what you're trying to get your body to do. And is the approach that you're taking relevant for that goal, right? And that's the thing that I learned a lot about with the nutrition, is that some of that stuff just didn't work very well for me, right?
Mhm.
I tried it because I saw the results, and I just come out of a period of time where I couldn't walk, as I was saying. And so I'd gained some weight, and I was being frustrated, and I was like, wow, this seems to be a faster way to go. And I tried one of the drugs and did it for 2 months, and I felt pretty miserable the whole time. For me, once again, everybody's different. And so I was like, I just don't think this is worth it. Like, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
Right. And so I thought the whole point was that I want to be active and feel good. And if I don't feel good, then that isn't not working. Right.
Right.
So I just think that, it's not a straight line. There are definitely some setbacks and things that have happened along the way. Like I said, if you would have asked me this probably in March or April of this year instead of December, I would have had a very different answer. And then, because I just kind of conquered a few things before the elbow really, really got nasty and I couldn't do things. So I was like, oh, yeah, this is great. I'll never go back to this way. And then, wow, you get kind of get hammered, get a setback. So, I think that's one piece of advice that I've really got to give out there is be okay with this. Is not like every day isn't going to be the perfect day. You've just got to be okay sometimes with like, all right, I need some rest. Like my body's not feeling great. I need to figure out what's going on here.
Yeah,
So,
and I think it's important to point out, especially to the ladies, that, we're like, you can't compete like you were in college. Our body's probably not going to look the way that it did in college. So let's give ourselves a little grace, focus on what is important, and that is the movement of the body. And, our priorities change.
yes. And my wife would have been probably the other person I would have had on this today, because I think that's something that she's probably, I don't want to say the word frustrated, but I think sometimes like I got to remind her, I'm like, okay, you are a mother of three. Your body did change, right? And okay, like it's in a different shape now than it was, because that's life, right? And I think it is different for men. We've had that conversation where I think, not in a bad way, but I don't want to say it's easier for men, but those types of transformations are just not the same. We didn't give birth. We didn't do those things.
Right.
And so our hormones are just not the same and different. So there was a time where one of the things that I was doing was to help my wife. She hates this story, but I think it's an important one. And so she had decided there was this particular nutrition plan that she was going to follow. And I was like, okay, that sounds fine. I'll try it. I'll do it with you. And there was like a 2 week period of time where you were very strict on carbohydrates, and you didn't do this and do that. And she was, I mean, to the letter on this thing. Like, and that is a huge change in her nutrition pattern. And for me, I'm kind of like a meativore or something. So like eating like all protein is like the easiest thing ever for me. Like it was not very hard for me at all to make that adjustment. And I think at the end of the 2 weeks, you don't weigh yourself during the 2 weeks. You just eat the food that you're supposed to eat. I didn't do anything else particularly unique that I wasn't doing before. And at the end of the 2 weeks, I lose like 14 or 15 pounds. And she's down like a pound and a half,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
she's just bitter.
Yeah.
And she's like, I gave up chocolate for this, this is nothing. And I think that's one of the key things is that also by establishing a baseline and learning about how you're functioning, you I you do have to kind of figure out the food piece of it for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to spout off, oh, you need to go paleo, or you need to be this, or you need to be that, or it's all carbs, or it's this. But I will encourage our listeners, there is a lot of research out there on longevity, and they call them the blue zones. Which basically it's a book where they've studied different parts of the globe that have longevity in their cultures. And I'm not trying to say that those diets are going to work for you, but if you look at that, there are some consistent things that do seem to work for different cultures. Once again, I think you've got to kind of experiment a little bit with finding a way in which to eat. And I've used this phrase a lot: is you got to love food that loves you back. Like, because food is a big part of our culture, going out to dinner parties, having big family events. And so just to ignore the impact of food as a part of your life and your culture is not going to work for a lot of people. Right. Where you're just like, oh, I'm only going to eat these things, and I'm only going to do this because I want to, be this way. I have failed at that over and over again. I just think it's really hard to implement drastic change that way. But I do think small changes are easy and can work. And so that's really what I encourage people to do there. And I'm not trying to advocate for other plans, but I think if that's something you struggle with, that I've gone through the Noom course, which is a course basically on psychology of helping you understand why you pick and do the things that you do related to food in your body. I've found that very helpful for me over the last year, so that I'm more aware of why I pick what I pick, and do what I do. And there are definitely times where food, for me personally, is a comfort item. And I'll be really honest with people. I'm not a big drinker. I've never been a smoker. I don't, and I was using activity sometimes as a vice to get a little bit of a kick, of an adrenaline kick, or whatever endorphins you want to say, to make me feel a little bit better. So when I'm not as active, that's when I have a tendency to go to my comfort foods, which may not be your comfort foods, but they are mine. Like, I'm going to eat some pizza, right? I'm going to go get a sausage McMuffin.
Okay.
Like, those are like things like, and you're sitting there going, well, that doesn't sound bad. Does when you eat as many of them as I do. And so, but like learning that those are in some cases like trigger behaviors for me, because it's really not about the food. It's about, I'm dealing with some emotional baggage. And, I just think we got to be a little bit more open with each other about some of that stuff, and not like shame people about their choices. But, I need, like, at times I got to have an accountability partner. I gotta have somebody that helps me stay on the straight and narrow, because if I'm not eating right, usually not working out very consistently, I'm usually then not sleeping very well. and it all just kind of snowballs.
It really ties together though, right? Yeah. So,
Right.
yeah.
And starting to think about that in light of longevity, right? Of not just how do I perform my best today, but how do I start to be healthy for the long term? So that's one of the things that, our clients can do on our website is we have a health and longevity optimizer tool that you can get at our website. And I really encourage everybody to go there and take that. You can just go on our website at artisanwealthstrategies.com. There's a link for it right there. And do that because it gives you that baseline. I don't think you got to do it every year, but it does, and it kind of helps you look at it's based on a database of millions upon millions of people, and you can say, okay, based on me and people like me, what are the things that I can focus on that will give me the highest probabilities of increasing a healthy longevity, reducing the possibility that I may need assisted care as I age, and trying to shrink those things down so that there's less need for that. There are choices we can make. There are some things that are beyond our control that are truly genetic that you and I can't fix, but it helps you break apart those things. What are the things that you can control? And what are the things that you can't? So that's another great baseline tool that we really encourage people to use.
All right. So what is the email address, or excuse me, the web address again?
www.artisanwealthstrategies.com. And when you get there, you'll be able to find our health and longevity optimizer.
All right. Sounds good. So thank you so much, Brett. And thank you for listening today. Please like, follow, and share this podcast with your friends. Until next time, I'm Wendy McConnell.
Thank you for listening to Handcrafting Your Retirement. Visit our website at www.artisanwealthstrategies.com or give us a call at 317-660-2855. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Artisan Wealth Strategies. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.
Securities and Advisory Services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA SIPC.